Thanks very much. Now, let's tackle this bad stock market day. We've got our expert, CNBC contributor Jerry Bowyer. We have Quinn Hardy of Forbes magazine, Vince Farrell of Soleil Securities, and Jim Paulson, Wells Capital Management. Hello, gentlemen. Hello. Stocks down across the board, cyclicals, financials, transports, you name it. However, let us begin with my friend Jerry Bowyer. Jerry, for stock market investors, what was the real message of this GM deal, firing Wagner and his board, throwing them under the bus? It came as a shock. Well, how did investors read that?
Shareholders don't matter. The government is the final decision maker. I mean, look, I think shareholders probably would have been wise to elect a board that would have fired Rick Wagner, but that's their decision. They're the owners. And what this says is if the government is involved in a major way with a company, and they're getting involved in a major way with more and more companies every day and planning to expand that universe of companies that they're involved with, that basically the federal government's going to run the company. They're going to decide who the CEO is. They're going to decide who the board is. They're going to decide whether they should merge or not. Talk about government by fiat. I mean, they're literally saying merge with fiat. And they're going to decide why they should merge because they have to build green cars and use Fiat's green technology to do it. This sends a message that shareholder capitalism is optional in Obama land.
Ah, Quentin Hardy, you heard Jerry Bowyer. Shareholder capitalism is optional. I hear a lot of central planning. I hear industrial policy. I even hear green tech via fiat.
Well, what I hear are people who think the government's all about a handout and don't believe in accountability. To my way of thinking, if you keep a company out of bankruptcy by loaning it billions and billions of dollars, you get a say in who the CEO is. And if the CEO has a record of failure and was late into crossover vehicles and late into small SUVs and put out cars with lousy interiors that nobody wanted to buy and drove you into this ditch in the first place, you might want to replace him. And you're actually expecting a little bit of accountability for your money. And if that shocked people, well, I'm sorry, but GM would have been bankrupt months ago, and the shareholders would have been down to zero by now.
That's what should have happened.
Oh, and by the way,
months ago.
By the way, Jerry, you seem to think it ends today. What do you think Obama is going to be exacting from the unions now? This is going to cut in both directions. And this was a very purposeful.
His remarks today were
we shall see.
His remarks today were absolutely astounding. I mean, usually presidents say, well, labor has some blame and management has some blame. The president's remarks today were the working people have done absolutely nothing wrong.
Before we get to Vince Farrell and Jim Paulson, Quentin, I want to ask you, though, why didn't Mr. Obama, why didn't President Obama throw UAW head CEO Ron Gettelfinger under the bus along with Wagner? In other words, it's a big bus. There was plenty of room, Quentin. He could have thrown the directors, he could have thrown Wagner, and he could have thrown Gettelfinger. Do you think he forgot like it wasn't in the teleprompter? How does that work?
Larry, am I missing something? Was he signing Gettelfinger's paycheck? No.
Well, indirectly he is. Indirectly he is.
Jerry, shut up. You mark my words, he will exact things from the union, and if Gettelfinger can survive that, more power to him. But make no mistake, it was the head of GM. It was the CEO. It was Wagner who got the company into this shape. He was accountable for it today.
No, the unions had nothing to do with it. Or should I just shut up again because that's not politically correct to say
Let me go to Jim Paulson. Hang on. Let me go to Jim Paulson. Jim Paulson, if you like, please make a comment on the meaning of GM to investors. We also have to get to Tim Geithner, who kind of sprung the leak yesterday on the news shows and said he's going to give a lot more TARP aid money to banks. I understood it. The banks don't want the TARP money. So, Jim, how did you see that? And I guess my other question to you right off the top, is this the end of the great March bull market?
I don't think so, Larry. I think that really when you boil it down, you can argue with what's going on politically with the government involvement in our economy, but the end result today with the auto companies, to me, is not all bad. It's kind of where you wish it would have went right out the gate. You kind of wish Chrysler would have found a private player to merge up with and to go forward with a more efficient model. You kind of wish maybe GM would just go into bankruptcy and come out a leaner, meaner company.
I mean, wouldn't it have been better, Jim, just on the bankruptcy point, wouldn't it have been better to have gone into some prepackaged bankruptcy last fall, which was my view and the view of many others, including Senator Corker, who's coming on the program in a few minutes, and have the bankruptcy judge throw the board and Wagner under the bus? I mean, to me, that's the way this should have worked. That's capitalism.
It should have.
Bankruptcy is essential to capitalism.
Larry, what would that have done to the entire
at the end of the day, though, Larry,
Go ahead,
I was going to say, at the end of the day, though, for shareholders, I think for the aggregate stock market, it's a good thing. We get the auto cycle to the bottom quicker here this way, rather than propping it up and making this thing extend outward. Maybe we're going to get to the end of this auto thing faster, and that, for the stock market and the economy, might be the best thing.
All right, so Vince Farrell, Jim puts a pretty interesting positive spin on this, and at the end of the day, he may be right as this process plays out. By the way, President Obama's people leaked late this afternoon that the bankruptcy is the preferred option, and that's where they're going. But let's put that aside. Might stock market investors, in addition to the signal about central planning, might they have worried, though, that a bankruptcy of General Motors would make the recession worse, the job losses bigger? This was a fear we had last December. Was that weighing on the stock market's mind today?
I don't think so, Larry. I think what would weigh in the stock market is, one, in my opinion, this is a sop to the G20. Obama wants to be liked. He's going to go out there and say, look what I did, guys. Europe wants regulation. We've been talking stimulus. Europe wants regulation, regulation, regulation. So now what did I do? Hey, I gave you what you wanted. See how tough I'm going to be with the corporate America. Now, the good side, and I'd agree with Jim on his analysis, and I take it one step further. There's a lot of companies now that are going to say, I want nothing whatsoever to do with the federal government. I've got TARP money. Take it back. I'm not going to you for anything.
So Geithner, what about Geithner? See, I think Geithner upset everybody.
I don't know what he's talking about.
The bankers have been telling us they're more profitable. We have a picture, I think, of the upward sloping yield curve. Even a banker can make money with zero financing costs and loans at a more profitable rate. I thought they'd done, look at the yield curve. Look how that thing has moved upwards in the last, what, actually it's about 12, more than 12 months. All of a sudden, Geithner's saying, no, wait a minute, we're going to have more TARP money. What's that mean? Did that shake up the stock market?
It did, because it confused me. I hear these guys saying, we want to pay it back. Now, I know they came out of the kiss and make up session on Friday saying, well, the president doesn't want us to pay it back. We have to have Treasury's permission to pay it back, but the intention is to pay it back. I think Geithner's a smart guy, but I think he's horrific in public relations. He says things like the beginning of last week, he said something about the dollar, maybe the SDR would be a good alternate currency. He can't mean that. There's no way
if he needs the gold standard, I'm ready and listening.
He doesn't mean the gold
but I didn't hear, though.
He means SDR. No. So I don't think he knows how to handle the public relations side of it. He says something, doesn't understand the ramifications of it. There is no banker that's lined up for more TARP money unless they're in trouble. If they're in trouble, let him go out.
All right. So
let him go out.
All right, Jerry Bowyer, I want to get you and Quentin on the way out. Is the Geithner statement, this is the super uber regulator for the big banks, is this part of the economic control campaign that you're hearing, Jerry Bowyer?
Yes, and it will not work. They have that in Great Britain, and they're in worse shape than we are. You should have competition between your regulators. Regulators do not have the... Look, the people who ran Homeland Security, that's the basic same model. Consolidate, consolidate, consolidate doesn't make you smarter or more efficient.
Quentin Hardy, last word. You're all coming back, but on the way out, do you agree or disagree with what Jerry Bowyer just said?
To the extent that banks only borrow from the taxpayers when they absolutely need the money, I'm all for that. Let them put themselves through some hard times first.
And do you want the government to choose, though, which banks? In other words, a lot of these banks want to get out from under it, Quentin, as I understand it, and that's what Vince was saying.
I think they will take back the money if they think the bank is safe and if all the relationships have been cleared.
All right. Hang on. Stay right where you are. We've got much more work to do. I want to look at some of the stock sectors that got slammed today, and I want to ask about a triple bottom. A triple bottom. Oh, my gosh. That's what we had in 2002. Now, straight ahead, coming up, President Obama getting in some good old European-style economic planning. I don't like it, and neither does our next guest, Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee. He will join me when the Kudlow report continues. Extraordinary actions today. I think American investors are rattled. This doesn't really have a free market feel to it.